Okay, an 1830 5K says that you're a comfortable sub-3 marathon runner. The calculators are certain about it. So why do I know dozens of 1830 5K runners who have never broken 3 hours for the marathon, and a lot more who can't break 1930 for 5K, yet run sub-3 hours every time they run a marathon? The number lied to you. Let me show you what it's measuring and what the marathon actually rewards. Let's start with why you believe it, because the maths really does look airtight. An 1830 5K is 3:42 a kilometer, or just under 6 minutes a mile. A sub 3 hour marathon, just dipping under, is 4:15 a kilometer or 6:50 a mile. So when you feed that 1830 5K into an equivalence calculator, it hands you that 2:50 something marathon. So you think, okay, box ticked, and off you go to the start line expecting a comfortable sub 3. But here's what nobody tells you about that number. There's one hidden ingredient inside almost all of those calculators. A single figure, 1.06. And it came from an engineer called Pete Regal almost 50 years ago. Now, I'm not here to trash the formula, because it's good, it's genuinely good. And from 5K to 10K to half marathon, it's usually accurate within a few percent. But where did Regal get that number from? World record holders. The fastest and the most well-trained individuals that ever lived. And so to draw a clean line, 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon, all of the subjects had a complete runner underneath. They had the speed, the endurance, and not just fully built, but maxed out. They're professional athletes running 100 miles or plus a week, and equally, if not more important, the recovery time to absorb the training. And because the stakes are so high, they're not gonna line up to any race without being properly, optimally prepared. So the truth about the formula is that it's almost perfect for the runner it was designed for, that it was built on. And so the fitter, faster, and more well-rounded as an athlete you are, the more accurate that calculator gets. The catch is that runner isn't you. And stay with me, because this is actually good news, not bad. You've got a real life with lots of other things going on, and you've got the opportunity to do the best training you can given the hours that you've got available, and the best recovery that you can put together given the circumstances of your life. You're doing real training. It's just not to that level of a professional athlete. And so if your primary focus is the marathon, and you put your 5K time in a calculator, it assumes everything that you're doing is built to elite proportions. And so it will bring you out at around about 2:57. So let's use a more honest version that's not based on world record holders, but everyday runners. Researchers took more than 2,000 everyday runners and tested the Regal formula against their actual marathons. Up to the half, it held up pretty well. At the marathon, it ran at least 10 minutes too fast for half of them. Watch what happens to 1830 for 5K on real world numbers. Well-trained, big aerobic base, 2:57. The formula from 50 years ago nails it. Moderately trained, 3:09 for the marathon. Even more time poor and low volume, 3 hours and 21 minutes for the marathon. Same 5K, same engine, 24 minutes difference. And notice the pattern. The formula is sharpest for the people, the runners who need it least. Sebastian Sauer is not putting his 5K time into a calculator. For the people who are actually using that calculator, often for targets or reassurance, the times drift the furthest. So the calculator wasn't lying about your engine. Your engine's probably fine, and we'll come back to that in a second, because it's very good news. What it was lying to you about, or what it's inaccurate about, is your chassis, because it's assuming you're well-rounded, well-balanced, well-recovered in the same way as an elite athlete. And you're not. And so that's not a fitness problem, and it's not a talent problem, it's a structure problem, which is the best kind of problem to have for you, because structure you can build. If your goal is the marathon, as I always say, we've got to look at the goal and work back. So what is the marathon actually testing? Because a 5K and a marathon ask your body two completely different questions. So what's the slowest you can run 5K and still be able to dip under 3 hours for the marathon? Let me show you this with two real runners that I coach, and I'll keep them anonymous. First one, on paper, has a small engine, a VO2 max of around 51. And honestly, By the standards of people chasing a sub-3 marathon, that's modest. But his running economy is exceptional, and he's able to hold a huge fraction of that engine for the full distance of a marathon. And so he ran 2 hours and 59 minutes. The second runner has a VO2 max of 67. That's a third bigger, genuinely a big engine. On paper or any calculator, you'd back him to beat the first guy comfortably every single time. He ran 2:58, a minute in between them, and 16 points of VO2 max. A third more engine, but at the finish line, it's worth almost nothing, because the marathon was never at this level a test of how big your engine is. It's a test of how much of it you can hold, how much you can sustain for hours without falling apart. The small engine runner had built that. The big engine runner, still a work in progress. Same race, same time, completely different reason. So if the engine isn't the thing that separates them, what is? The small engine runner beats the big engine runner in the marathon. Same distance, opposite story, completely different result. Now, of course, everything can be trained, but we're working with you right now at your starting point. And in my own data, when I line my athletes' numbers up against their actual marathon result, the marathon result that their training method that they're on gets them to, it's not their VO2 max that correlates the best, it's how well developed they are in specifically what the marathon demands. So that's what we attack from day one. So the question that flips this whole thing on its head is, how slow can your 5K time be and you still have the potential to run the marathon in less than 3 hours? The answer is about 90 minutes and 30 seconds. There is a genuine physiological flaw there, but if you're specifically training for the marathon and developing those components that the marathon requires, your 5K time can be a minute slower than what the calculators are telling you. And what are you training for? Is it the fastest parkrun that you could ever do? Or is it maximizing your potential in the marathon? This is the type of question and comment that I get a lot. And both of these comments are on marathon videos. Would you recommend working on 5K time before progression onto 10K? Or could I train my 10K pace and it will help my 5K? And then another comment on a marathon video. This is exactly my problem. I want to step up in distance, but I can't even break 19 minutes for 5K. Personal best of 1902, and I've run between that and 1920 more than 10 times. Stackfuls of evidence. What do I need to do? Honestly, feel like if I can't get down to 1830 first, then there's no way I'm ready to take on 26.2 miles. And would be kidding myself. So if you're running 1930 for 5K, or even a touch slower, and I've seen it above 20 minutes for sub-3 marathon runners, you're not a slow runner. You're an unsharpened runner. The 5K is measuring a top end that you've simply never developed because you're busy focusing on goal number one, which is the fastest possible marathon. Your 5K is likely selling you short, and that changes everything that you should do next. Now, everything I've said so far is true for everyone, but this is why we got into the mess in the first place. Because most of the calculations, most of the formulas, most of the algorithms are usually not taking into consideration the main point, which is you are an individual. Everything about you as a runner is different to the next person. So I want to speak to you specifically because this is where it stops being a fun fact about calculators and starts being about what you can actually do in training to get the most out of your marathon. Here's you as a pitcher, and you've got a marathon in the calendar. You've got a deadline to hit. That's the typical runner that I coach. So if that sounds like you, or part of it sounds like you, the next 2 minutes matter more than any other part of this video. Because here's the thing that the calculators don't account for. Building a fast 5K and getting the absolute most out of the marathon that you can are two different jobs. Different energy systems, different sessions, different adaptations. The 5K wants speed and a big top end. The marathon wants efficiency over a long period of time and building the physiological durability so that you don't fall apart in the final miles of the marathon. So not only is it different training, it's pulling you in different directions. And you've only got one body and you're on limited time versus the professional runner. What I see a lot is marathon runners trying to obtain that 1830. And what I also see a lot is marathon runners derailing their training week by running a park run all out nearly every Saturday. I get it, there's the social, there's community side. It's reassuring if you're gradually moving forward, but if you're building towards a marathon, that's an important day, an important opportunity to get the most out of that park run if you want to keep the social and community side. I did this as a kid. Tuesday night as fast as I could go at the interval session and at the track. Thursday night, pretty much the same, but longer intervals. Competitive with a group as fast as I could possibly go. Saturday, race on cross country, the track, or the road, and then Sunday, long run. Now, I love Parkrun. It is not just the greatest running initiative of all time. In my opinion, it's the greatest sporting initiative. It's wonderful. And so I'll never speak a bad word about it. But if we're specifically training for a marathon, and more importantly, training for a marathon that we want to have this big breakthrough in, we've got to make that park run work for you. So if you're getting there on a Saturday morning, easy warm up, fast as you possibly can for 5K, easy cool down, all in 40, 50 minutes. Seems like nothing, but it's having a big effect on the long run. So instead of chasing that equivalent time that you've seen on a calculator, that 18:30, or as fast as you can go so then you feel confident about the marathon, completely different event, here is just one fix where you can make Parkrun work for you so that you're still seeing your mates, you're still being part of that community, but at the same time, you can learn discipline, which is the most important skill, discipline and patience for the first half of what you're really training for. All you're gonna do is warm up properly. And when I say that, I mean delivering yourself to the start line of the park run, which is a small enough race usually that you can warm up to the line. You're not stood on London Marathon waiting for 45 minutes. So warm up properly, gradually walk, light jog, dynamic stretching, and then get into gradual accelerations to get your heart and body physically, physiologically ready to run the park run controlled. So instead of going at all out 5K pace, you're running it at your 1 hour race pace. You're deliberately holding back. For a sub 3 hour marathon runner, and this will change depending on when your target is and what your starting point is, but if you're getting close and you've got good conditions, you're looking at about 20 minutes for that 5K. And again, just like those 19:30 and 20-minute 5K runners who can run under 3 hours, it's very individual. But if you get used to that 1 hour race pace, slower than your 10K effort, faster than your half marathon effort, then you're working on a key indicator of success for the marathon. Now, what I want you to do as soon as you finish the park run, and again, the logistics, the size of the race, usually make it very easy to do what I'm about to tell you is, once you've finished, 60 seconds rest, or better still, 2 minutes jog recovery, and then the next 5K, again, at exactly the same level. So instead of running one park run, or one 5K as fast as you can possibly go, you're running 2 times 5K at an effort you can sustain for an hour. That is a great session, and feeds exactly into what you're trying to do in the marathon. Now, of course, you can turn that into your long run day. And so if, after your warm up, 4, 5K, and then get into that first park run of 5K, 2 minute jog recovery, then another 5K, and you'll find that second 5K harder because you've not got people around you, you've not got that race kind of energy, and then as soon as you finish that second 5K, another 2 minute jog recovery, and then on for more time. And of course, the progressions from that could be, okay, this time I'm gonna do 3 times 5K once you're ready, and then 4 times 5K. I'm gonna sandwich that in 5K to start with and 5K to finish with. And what you'll find is that initial 5K or park run, if it is a type of a race, will set the tone for the rest of the session. But the key is not to get carried away, not to get competitive, and not to overrun that first 5K. Take some practice, but you can get there. So let me give you the good news that I promised you at the start of the video. You may never run 18:30 for 5K, and you don't need to. You don't build a sub 3 hour marathon by chasing a faster 5K and waiting for the calculators to catch up. You build it by looking at the A goal, the marathon, and build specifically, methodically towards it from your start point, from the engine you've already got. And most of you have got plenty enough size engine to run a 3 hour marathon, and that's what I will always stand by, that sub 3 hours is possible for any man. One last thing, the number that actually talks to your marathon was never your 5K, 10K is a better indicator, closely correlated enough with the marathon to tell you something real. That's the next video, so subscribe if you want to see it. And if you're in that position where your 5K flatly disagrees with your marathon or what you want to run a marathon in, or if your 5K is super quick, but you just can't get that breakthrough in a marathon, and you've got the work ethic, the positivity, the drive, the consistency is already hardwired, then get in touch by booking a call in the link in the description.